Hey there now. Welcome to Box Office Addict. This is Norm Macdonald here, and I used to do that show back in the '90s. I used to do that weekend update, and it was on a little show called Saturday Night Live. Maybe you heard of it, and but I'm taking a break from my podcast right now to host a Box Office Addict. That's a show here on this channel, and just thought we'd talk about the weekend numbers now. Okay. Well, this is an interesting weekend. It's the Halloween weekend special, I guess. Um, it's not Halloween weekend, obviously, but Madea booed up a storm at the box office, so that's something to be noted. Hey there, how you doing there? Can you hear the audio all right? Is my voice coming through good? All right. I don't know. Audio check. Confirm for me now, minion. I'm not asking. I'm telling you. You're getting a direct order. God, I hope you guys can hear me. Or that was a real waste of a crappy Norm Macdonald impression that I worked on for 10 minutes. Yeah, you gotta think about that stuff sometime. When you're doing when you're talking about you're talking about the box office. You gotta get your facts together. I'm just you gotta know what you're doing. Okay, good. Thank you, minion. I appreciate it. You are no longer needed. Please go handle it yourself. The Kool-Aid will be waiting in the other room. If you would like to have some suicide Kool-Aid, please call 1-888 Kill Yourself for me. Alright, so anyway, Madea booed up some box office storm. Tyler Perry, oh, the Lord and Savior of the box office. He is here. He has defeated all other films. He has defeated everyone. Tyler Perry has one of the most consistent box office track records out of anyone. Actor, director, writer, what have you. His films always open at number one. He almost always hits the same demographic audience and keeps a loyal fan base. He's had some bigger highs and some lower lows, sure, but who hasn't? His scheme that he's had going on for years is amazing. This film cost $25 million, and it looks like it cost $500,000. Genius. Genius man. Oh, hey there. How you doing? How you doing there? Yeah. All right, cool. But anyway, Tyler Perry, it's going to be so exciting to talk about him and his box office just track record. But if you don't know the show, it's Box Office Addict. This is where we break down the weekend numbers. And if you're an addict like me, you're obsessed with it, like I've been for, God, 15 years now, probably. When I was a kid, I was into the box office. Probably 13 or something, I really got into it. But we look at the weekend numbers to see how the marketing worked out, what the studio's getting in profits, how much the movie cost, how much the theaters are getting from the ticket sales, and how much the studio gets, how much you get from the international box office from like places like China, the expectations of what the film was going to perform and what actually happens in reality, competition. There's so many factors to consider here that you understand why studios are going crazy trying to figure it out. If there was a way where you just had it figured out, which seems to be a superhero film or a horror film, but outside of that, most films nowadays are a risk. It's really tough. It's tough to market and get people to leave their homes and watching Netflix to go see a movie if it doesn't have an IP attached to it that's already something that they're just loyal to because they own a bunch of merchandise and they love it and they're nostalgic. But what Box Office Addict is here for is to teach you guys a little bit contextually why some movies get made. You go, why did that terrible movie get made? Because it made money. And why don't good movies get made, more original movies? Well, because they're not making money. And I don't know, it helps you give a sense better of what the studios are doing. Even though it's the big studios that own the little studios that buy a lot of the independent films. So it's not like there's some separate punk rock side to this. It's all really in-house, a lot of this stuff, but you still see how the industry works, and being in this world, it's not just if a movie's good or bad, it's also if it's successful or a failure, and there's two arts to that. There's the art to making a film, and then there's the art to marketing and releasing a film, and you have to know them all. Gonna watch Madea when it comes here. Oh, good for you, man. Awesome. Got to get you some of that Madea time. Anyway, let's jump in. Let me check where the Hitman's Bodyguard's at worldwide. Still at 176 million, but $30 million budget, 176 million worldwide. I'd say that's pretty good box office. I'm sure they made a nice little profit off that. They got a nice little cut of that money. I'm sure Ryan and Sam got some back end on this. Oh, I was looking for my. Oh, here's my water. My bad. I was looking for my water. If I was taking little pauses there. Despicable Me 3, is that still at $1 billion? No, it went up a little bit. It's at $1,028,000,000. $80 million film. Third in a trilogy, fourth of a franchise, because Minions was separate. That film made $1.1 billion. Only $6 million spent here more than Minions. Anyway, film is probably the most profitable film of the year, I'd say, or it's going to be in the top 3. Secret Life of Pets was last year, but you also got to consider the merchandise, how much they sell of those Minions and Despicable Me. Even Secret Life of Pets, they sold a lot of merchandise. So Illumination's not just making money at the box office where they're killing domestically and in particular internationally. They also make money that you make owning Star Wars or Marvel, and they're kind of their own thing. So they're not only becoming one of the most powerful little studios, divisions of the things that exists out there, they're pretty much dominating the market of animation. They're beating Disney at their own game. That doesn't mean they're making better movies than Disney. They are not making Moana, but as far as making returns and selling merchandise of a character, nobody's doing it better in the animated department right now than the people who run Illumination, which is absolutely crazy because I think their product is completely mediocre, if not terrible. But you know, there's sometimes you just you know, like when you go through that minion. What's a minion? Yeah, there's a minions. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, everyone makes typos. It's all right. It's always okay. Then there were 4. Okay, sorry for the late box office Addict today. Here's what happened. I was staying up last night because I'm making a film right now, making an independent film. And I'm stressing out a lot because we're shooting it like 2 days a week, so we don't get a lot of time to work on it. So I have to do a lot of pre-production and prep and all that. So I have to stay up late and storyboard stuff and think about it and what we're gonna do. So we don't have a lot of time. It's how it is with low budget filmmaking. You got to pretty much be you got to do it because you'll never get anything done because you don't have the money and time to work on it like you do in a big budget movie. So you just have to kind of grind through it. But I stayed up last night stressful about that. So I stayed up really late, like 8 in the morning. And I kind of slept in today. And I woke up at like 1. And I had some coffee. And I just did not feel like doing Box Office Addict. And I was going to do it at 3. And then I was going to do it at 4. And then I had to hang out with my girlfriend for a little bit. We just talked about life and all sorts of stuff like that, you know? And, we hung out. And then before I noticed, I was like, I guess this is just going to be a late Box Office Addict. Because it's weird. It's never consistent. Like last week's episode was a short one that was 45 minutes, and it got like 300 hits, and then the week before that was 3 hours, and that one got like 1,000, and a couple weeks before that the 3 hour one got 1,000. I figured the shorter, more precise episodes, the concise ones, I mean, like really, tight ones, I thought they would do better, but people seem to like the longer format ones so far. I guess we'll have to see where the channel grows, but I'm sorry about this being late. Typically, it wouldn't be this late. I would do this or if you watch the show or you listen to it. Typically, I'd be doing this at like in the afternoon, like at 4 or 3 or something like that. But I would, or even earlier than that sometimes. But today I'm doing it after 8 o'clock or so, which is pretty late to be talking about the box office. But if you want to watch this later, I guess it doesn't matter. But I do like having the live audience, of course. It's a different show live than it is when you watch it afterwards. It's weird. I think a lot of people, they don't get the experience because people talk to me and they're like, I do like that show, but I don't quite. And I'm like, man, you kind of have to be there live in those episodes to really get that there's kind of this energy. It's a vibe that everyone picks up on. When the chat's hitting and everyone's hitting and there's jokes coming everywhere. What's on the screen's funny. What I'm saying's funny. What people are writing is funny. There's just so many things going on. It's really entertaining. And it's very fun and fulfilling for me weekly. I don't know if I could do it every day. It might be stressful to do stuff like this every day. But it's fun to do it once a week and really talk about something that I care about. Even though people think it's stupid to obsess and care about the box office, but I think you could say that about anything. I think you could say that about video games, movies, sports, anything. It's just, it's what you want to spend your time, what you want to do with it. It's your life. and anyone who wants to share a little bit of their life with me doing this show, I greatly appreciate the company. Okay. Flatliners is continuing to flatline. $28 million worldwide, $19 million budget. There's no way they have broke even on this yet. That domestic total of $16 million is terrible, and I just don't see it going anywhere from here. The Florida Project. This is made by the director, I believe, of Tangerine, I think was the film. A film made on a phone. Low-budget indie film, getting a lot of rave reviews. Willem Dafoe's performance. 112 theaters, $1.3 million. I don't think they spent a lot making this film, so I'm going to say this is doing pretty well. I'm sure it was bought, and they spent money marketing, so I'm sure they have some money in it. But, it seems to be doing well. Like 636,000 in 112 theaters is not bad. That's not bad at all, actually. So it might be one of those indie films that makes a nice little dent. Nothing major. It's not going to be like, one of those blockbuster indie films that comes out every year or so. Every other year we get a film that's like an indie film, or not even an indie film, the Oscar drama that breaks out. Like you get like a Silver Linings Playbook that becomes a crowd pleaser. Because indie film or horror films have always done well, or low budget, but it's not always that a drama adult film breaks out and becomes a major thing. Even with studio backing, it's odd how that works out a lot of the time. Marshall, $5 million domestic, $12 million budget. So I doubt they've made anything on this yet. So that's unfortunate. I haven't seen that, but it's a different kind of thing that's out there. My Little Pony the movie. $1.9 million, 52% drop, $18 million at the box office, $35 million worldwide. I don't know what this movie cost. I guess I could look up the budget for it. Let's see if Wikipedia has it. Hold on. My Little Pony. Oh, geez, typos galore. The movie. Come on. Here's Wikipedia. Maybe they'll have a budget up. We can see how much this thing cost. Oh, they don't have it up either. Man, what the heck is the budget of this dang movie? I mean, couldn't have been that much. I'm sure it's just a little bit better than the animation for the TV show. I mean, it is a movie. Film had a budget between 6 to 8 million. Oh, well, that's not high. Okay. It wasn't. Yeah, that's what I was saying. This couldn't have cost that much. So, all right, well, with marketing and everything, they're probably having a rough time with that 18 million. This is what happens a lot of time when you do a TV show like the Powerpuff Girls movie. Rugrats movie and The Simpsons are the only ones I saw ever break out. Even South Park didn't do that well when it came out. Like, according to Matt and Trey, they said that movie didn't actually make any money, the studio told them. But, like, this was probably going to make a little bit of profit. But, like, Batman Mask of the Phantasm didn't do well when it came out. It made $5 million. And it really had no marketing push. The studio didn't care. But, like, yeah, South Park made $52 million. Now, with, adjusted for inflation, but the movie cost $21 million and it made $83 million worldwide. It wasn't a hit. It didn't even make $100 million. It opened to $11 million. And this was it was really well reviewed and people loved this movie. And it's made a crap load of money in the years. But when it came out, those TV, I remember the Powerpuff Girls movie. A lot of those films, when they came out, they didn't make a lot of money. They usually open. SpongeBob also broke out. I need to bring up SpongeBob. SpongeBob's been able to break out. But those are really, Powerpuff Girls, $3 million opening weekend. $11 million budget, $11 million domestic. They don't typically do well. I don't know if it shows how small the audience actually is or it's just bad marketing. But because, the SpongeBob movie did well. It opened to $32 million. And then the sequel to SpongeBob was a huge hit. It made $162 million and $325 million worldwide. I mean, it was successful. So, SpongeBob and The Simpsons and that seem to be able to do it. But yeah, other film, TV franchises, animated, don't seem to be able to branch out. Here's what it is. The Lego Ninjago movie. $2.1 million, 50% drop, $54 million. This film cost $70 million, I've read. It's at $106 million worldwide. $20 million opening weekend. It'd be shocking if they had broke even at this point when you consider marketing, promotion and all that, and release costs and all that. So I'm assuming they haven't made a lot of money on this. I'm guessing here this was very disappointing. I mean, I don't think they thought this was going to make Lego Batman or Lego Movie money, but I don't know why my voice has that raspy sound to it. It must be my throat. Trying to get that clear, just like a... but sorry, my throat's got... I know it's got this, sound... And people are like, clear your throat. I'm like, I don't do. I'm always clogged up. I'm very phlegmy. I guess I smoke too much. Let's see. 20 million though, 106 million. So it's not that good. This isn't good for the Lego franchise, and they have like more Lego movies coming out. I think they're overthinking this franchise. They might burn it out. I think that's a big fear they're going to have to worry about, is that they're going to burn out this franchise, and by the time there's not going to be any more Lego movies, because they got really lucky with the first one. But how many times can you repeat that success, like build a whole franchise around Lego movies? It's not that I don't dislike the Lego movie crap, because I do. I don't know. I guess it kind of does. I guess that does. Dave Chappelle should have just put on that dress. I love that story. Yeah, of course we could talk TV, man. I like TV. Yeah, you want to talk about television? Go ahead. Is Tyler Perry overrated from a success standpoint? No. Of course not. Tyler Perry is one of the most successful directors of the last... I mean, he's worth like, what? Isn't he worth like $500 million? And he was a successful playwright. Before that, he would go around and do plays. And he made money doing that. So, no, he's very successful. He makes bad movies. He's a bad director. But he's the most... I mean, he's probably... I'm sure for a while he was the most successful black director before F. Gary Gray did Straight Outta Compton, and the last did The Fate of the Furious, and that made $1 billion. But I'm pretty sure Tyler Perry was probably very successful. Okay, Victoria and Abdul, 14 mil domestic, 46 million worldwide. Stephen Frears film with Dame Judi Dench. This isn't actually doing that bad. All things considered, that's not bad. If you look at the box office a lot, that's not bad for the kind of movie it is. Same kind of different as me. Ugh, that title. I remember seeing the trailer for this movie. It looked fucking crazy. It's just bonkers. 2.5 million in 1,300 theaters. That is bad. 2 hours, man. Yeah, Renee Zellweger again, not having a good year. Jon Voight. And my guy Greg Kinnear. Love me some Greg Kinnear. Poor bastard. The Mountains Between Us. Kate Winslet, Idris Elba. $35 million budget, and $39 million worldwide. Not very good. Have you ever watched the latest American Horror Story episode with Lena Dunham? And if you did, do you think she... Dude, I gotta say, I quit watching American Horror Story like a while ago. I didn't like that show. I watched the first season and some of the second and a little of the third, and that's it. And I quit watching it after that because I did not like it. So, I don't know. To be honest, I'm sure Lena Dunham would make it bad. I mean, you have me convinced. Do I think Lena Dunham with Ryan Murphy sounds awful? Yes, that sounds absolutely awful. I mean, you don't have to sell me on it. I believe you. I watched Girls for 3 seasons. I know what she can do. I've been affected by her too. It's okay. You're not alone. We're in this together. She's not going to hurt us anymore. We're not going to let her. We're going to be brave and tell people. Because people have to come out and say when Lena Dunham does that stuff. Chris Weitz worked on the script. He worked on the original Rogue One screenplay, and Cinderella, Golden Compass, About a Boy, a movie that I love, and him and his brother did American Pie. They were like the directors. Paul is either Weitz or Weitz, Paul Weitz and Chris Weitz, but they've had 2 separate careers. I think he directed American Pie. Let me check. Yeah. He directed it with his brother, the first one. I don't know if they did the second one. No, I think someone else directed it. But yeah, that was like kind of their big breakout as they did American Pie. And if you see adjusted for ticket price inflation, American Pie made $180 million. So people don't always get that. American Pie was very successful. Yeah, they were producers on. Like, look at American Pie 1. $235 million worldwide on an $11 million budget. That's crazy. It's insane. American Pie 2. Budget's $30 million. Box office, $287 million worldwide. Look at American Pie 2 made $228 million domestic. Huge numbers. American Wedding, $100 million. $231 million worldwide. Even the last American Pie movie, which did not do well. It was the first one to not make $100 million domestically. It made $57 million domestically on a $50 million budget, right? Kind of bombed, really, here. Like, the audience didn't come back. Worldwide, 234 million. So, the American Pie franchise was very fruitful for everyone involved. It was actually one of the most successful comedy franchises of all time. Every sequel did really well. Isn't American Horror Story trying to pander to the liberal hysteria towards Trump? I guess. I don't know. It looks like they are, but I thought they were always pandering. Oh, Lena, yeah, I know. That's the thing about Lena Dunham is she isn't a good actress. Like, she always puts herself in stuff and acts in a lot of stuff. And that's like her worst thing. She's not a bad director. I will give her that compliment. I'm not, egotistical enough to ignore her talent. She can shoot stuff. And she's not actually bad at directing other actors. I think she's a very generic writer and an obvious writer, but the episodes of Girls she directed and some of the directions I've seen her done, I think she has talent, and if she would just get out of her own way and let other people do the stuff that she can't do, like act and be likable and all that, and she just kind of... I think she could actually do something, but unfortunately she's a narcissist, so she has to be on camera. And she wants you to see her naked, and she wants you to think she's sexual. She's trying to... And she's not. And that's the worst part. But if she was doing that stuff from behind the camera, she'd be like a lot of other directors. She could just be a voyeurist from behind the camera and get hot people in the frame and direct them doing stuff, which would be great. I wouldn't mind that. Problem is she can't help but putting herself in there. It's, ugh. And yeah, she's a bad actress. I don't know why no one ever points that out. Like, no one talks about how bad of an actress she is. Like, she's not good at line delivery. She overacts a lot. I'm going to start Mindhunter soon. David Fincher, yeah, I'm gonna start that soon. Man, you have this thing with Zack Snyder and the Evangelion movie, man. It's not happening. I'm trying to tell you, it's not happening. The Eva movie with Zack Snyder, it's never going down. It may have happened like 5 years ago. It may have been oh, shut up, Harambe. My bunny's kicking his cage. It may have happened 5 years ago. That's not happening now. Like, I just don't see it. Of course Zack Snyder would ruin it because he would not get what makes the original good, and he would think it's because it's like some giant robot thing fighting these monsters. That's what he would think is cool. And he wouldn't get what the subtext or the artistry or the character development and how important the females are in the story and all that stuff. He wouldn't get any of that. He would think it's about this kid who becomes a badass and fights. Like, that's what it would be to him. And then it would be generic. It wouldn't be like what it is. It would take all the personality out of it. Like, you could tell the same story 100 times. It's okay. It's the personality that someone brings to it. Most movies you've seen aren't original. Especially today. They're from some book or some classic story, but it's how you do it yourself. You add personality to it because the person making it typically shouldn't be boring. Zack Snyder's a very vapid guy. He's very boring. He's boring in interviews. He's boring to hear talk. He's not interesting. He's not insightful. He's a cool guy. He's a nice guy, but that's it. That's not a guy to make a good movie. Typically someone who's making an interesting film has something interesting going on inside their head. That's why the film's interesting. They're not morons. I'm not saying Zack's a moron. I don't think he's dumb. But he's not, like... I don't think he's a genius. He's not, like, super smart. Oh, Jesus. Jesus, I'm sorry. Yeah, always avoid a sex scene with Dunham. He would likely go overboard with the religious symbolism instead of focusing on character development. I mean, I'm going to say I felt like, what's his name, Ano or whatever? I felt like he kind of went overboard with the religious symbolism. He shoves it in your face. like the actual show shoves it in your face, the religious symbol. It's like every 5 minutes. It's like, hey, religion. I mean, he's not subtle about it either. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, like, there's nuance to Evangelion, but it was a Gainax? Yeah, Gainax, I think, made that. And then they remake that show over and over again in different versions. That's something I really like. Kingsman, The Golden Circle. Well, my assumption was correct, which I'm not trying to say I told you so, because it was obvious. The marketing to this film was bad. They didn't emphasize a villain. The film didn't have a hook. It was just, did you like the first one? Now there's Americans in it. Channing Tatum's in it, and he's swearing. Which was a result of the movie itself being more bland. And they had personality in that first film, like I said, so they were able to market that. with the Eggsy Colin Firth relationship, and then in this film they didn't have anything to show you. Now that doesn't mean they couldn't have done a better marketing job, because I think anyone can. I think you can make a bad movie. Like Suicide Squad's a horrible movie, and that company sold that to people, So there's ways to do it, man. Marketing is an art, like I said. But this film I thought had terrible trailers, terrible marketing. The best thing I saw was an Archer bit on FX, and that was kind of funny with Eggsy. I love the first film. This film was disappointing to a lot of people, but that opening weekend of $39 million in comparison to the original's $36 million wasn't as good. The budget's higher. It's a sequel. It's been a few years. That first one was a surprise hit. People expected this to be a hit. I would have guessed $50 million. Instead, it opened very low for I think being a over $100 million sequel. They're lucky they didn't spend more on it, honestly. They could have actually went over budget on this and spent like $150 million. I mean, it wouldn't have shocked me if they would have put all their cards on the table for Kingsman after that first one ended up being. But the international box office is where it's at, and that's what they're going to care about. Because domestically, this isn't a bust, but it's definitely not what the first one was. It's not going to touch the original's $128 million, and that film made $414 million worldwide on an $80 million budget. But there's a silver lining to this. You always got to find the serendipity in things. You got to find the chance events that lead to some happiness, right? International box office is different today than it was when the original Kingsman came out. And the reputation and how many people see it changes too. It's not always the same. So even though domestically it's disappointing, and it's just barely getting to $100 million and hasn't touched its budget yet, not including marketing, by the way, worldwide, it's at $344 million, $250 million foreign. Those are good numbers. They've definitely made a profit. There's no, this isn't a flop. They've made money now with that box office. So, it doesn't mean Kingsman 3 is guaranteed, but it also doesn't mean that the Kingsman franchise as a whole is dead. Because there's clearly still an internet. Now, I do think a third film, maybe you could bounce back with the box office again. It's not impossible. Maybe if they made a better movie and then the marketing was better and they got a villain that was really attractive, it could bring people back. James Bond's always been up and down. Skyfall opened better than the other Daniel Craig movies, then Spectre dropped again. You go up and down. It depends on the movie a lot of the time and the marketing behind it and what year it is. It's tough to say relevant. Like Daniel Craig now, I think his next movie is going to do better than Spectre. And my only thinking on that is because they almost built new hype by Daniel Craig, like playing like he was done, so we all accepted a world without Daniel Craig as Bond, which I think we were all ready for. But because they've kind of brought him back and played with us so long, I think they actually brought excitement back for what they're going to do. And if they can channel that through the marketing and hype to make you go, man, I got to go see that Bond flick to see what they're doing with this one, it'll be successful like Skyfall was. And you always have... So I don't think this franchise is dead, but... it's not making as much as the first one, which is never good with the sequel when it cost more. But like I said, the first one made $414 million worldwide. This looks like it's going to get there, if not surpass it. What was the international? I think the first one's international total was $286 million, but I'm just guessing off memory. And it was $286 million. It's not like I've been looking at it every weekend for the last few weeks, so. But anyway, that film, yeah, that was a huge hit, right? And they made a lot of money, so. Yeah, the studio's not happy with that. I mean, they're not unhappy, but that domestic total's got to be upsetting for everyone involved. I mean, this, you would have thought this film was going to make like $150 million. But yeah, that worldwide total, 300. I even said this film was going to open kind of low and not hit it, though. I guess this week's before. But like I said, everyone was. It was obvious if you were looking at it in the marketing. I don't think it was a secret. But yeah, $344 million. It's not done with its worldwide total yet. So if it gets to $400 million, I think that's pretty successful, honestly, for a $100 million movie. I mean, this isn't a bomb. Like I think it's doing pretty well, all things considered. Like considering that the reviews are so much, because you have to say, what if the reviews had been great? What if this had been a great movie? Would the word of mouth have been better, right? And then every weekend would it have held better, and would it be making like 500, 600? You don't know. It is a film that's not getting the best word of mouth. The word of mouth just isn't there like it was for the first film, which is fine. I don't think it has to be. Okay. I don't know. All right, let's keep moving on up. To the east side. I gotta give me a piece of that American pie. American-made Tom Cruise. 45 mil domestic, very disappointing domestic total. The opening weekend, at times, people were thinking it might reach 20 million. This didn't end up being the crowd-pleasing film I thought it was going to be. Very entertaining movie. I should do a review of it. Very entertaining, fun, well-paced, well done. Tom Cruise is great in it. In another world, this film could have been a hit. I just don't know if it was this year. That was it. In another life, this could have been successful, if you know what I mean. But 121 million worldwide ain't bad. Hopefully he can get to 200 million and make a little profit for the studio. Tom Cruise still has pull internationally, but this is not one of his more successful films. This is on the lower end. And unfortunately that happened with Doug Liman and him on Edge of Tomorrow, which is one of my favorite Cruise movies. The Snowman, directed by, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to get his last name right, Thomas Alfredson. He directed one of my... No, I'll say it right now. He directed my favorite vampire film of all time. Because I used to say Fright Night. But my favorite vampire film of all time... or Nosferatu, the Werner Herzog remake, not the original. Hey, you guys in the chat, Let's Play a Game, tell me your favorite vampire movie. And that's what I would like to hear. What's your favorite vampire film? Mine is Let the Right One In, directed by Thomas Alfredson. He is a great filmmaker, in my opinion, who made this and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is a very dry movie. A little slow, but the cinematography in that film by, what is it, Hoyt van Hoytema? He did Interstellar and Dunkirk. He also shot Let the Right... Gorgeous cinematography on this film, and great performance by Gary Oldman. Very dry movie, though. But Let the Right One In is his last couple of films actually were successful. They had low budgets and made decent money. But if you can get the original book of this, they did a remake with Matt Reeves, and I like that film too. I own that on Blu-ray. And there is a remake with Chloe Moretz, and I don't think it's bad, but it's not as good as this film. This is my favorite vampire film of all time. I like it better than Nosferatu, than Fright Night, than Near Dark, Interview with the Vampire, all the ones that people name a lot of the time. Vampire. Yeah, the silent film. It's not even really a silent film. It's got some audio in it, actually, some sounds, I think. Vampire, which I own on Criterion. All terrific films, amazing movies. But this one really gets to the heart and soul of what a vampire story can be, and that's with allegories and make you look at humanity and mortality and not at the monster, which is why I think werewolf films don't always succeed. The only real werewolf films I like are Ginger Snaps and American Werewolf in London, and a few others, The Wolfman, because it's always an allegory for something. The werewolf represents something the person's going through. So it's not really about the monster, it's about the person. And that's what this film's about, the ideas and the things, the ideas it has and the questions it raises and the philosophical elements of it, the mystery of it, the ending. That stuff I've never seen in another vampire film done as well. It's absolutely wonderful. It's one of my favorite horror films ever made is Let the Right One In. So it's upsetting that this film, apparently they didn't get to shoot all of it. Apparently they missed out like 20% of the script. They rushed this movie. It's based off a very popular novel. Michael Fassbender's in the lead. I thought the trailer looked awesome. $35 million budget, acclaimed director, good cinematographer, all that. But unfortunately, apparently the production of this went awful. They rushed into production. They didn't get to shoot. Like they said, 20% of the script wasn't shot. And if you're making a thriller or any movie, 20% is not good. It had a bunch of production issues. That's what I'm going into. The production issues. Oh, yeah, Blade, man. Blade? Hell yeah. I saw Blade in the theater. I was like 8 years old and I saw Blade. I was able to get in and see Blade. Like, the theater didn't used to care in the town I lived in, so they would just let people in, so I went and saw Blade. But that movie was awesome. That opening scene in the Vampire Club with the blood, that's still one of the coolest openings to any superhero flick. Why haven't they rebooted Blade, Marvel, for, like, Netflix? Am I the only one who wants a Netflix Blade series? Like, why didn't Idris Elba get cast in that? Screw having Idris Elba as the guy in Thor. Or, Idris Elba's Blade, please. Can we, why didn't we get that? Not as, Dark Tower. I can't believe I can't think of his name and I love Dark Tower. Oh my god, the Gunslinger. But but yeah, the Gunslinger. Yeah, why cast him in that role? He would have been great as, in my opinion, Idris Elba would have been great as Jon Stewart and as the Green Lantern if they did that. Or Martian Manhunter, he would actually be very good. But I would love to see Idris Elba. There's so many roles he'd be good for, I think, that people never bring up. They always bring up these other roles, and I'm like, Like, why do you bring up a role that makes sense? Like, I'm not saying because he's black. I'm saying there's some parts that are perfect for that guy, like what he's good at. Like, why they waste him in Thor? They just have him stand around and not do anything. You're wasting a good actor. They just have him stand there holding a sword, and he talks every, like, 20... He's the Rafiki. Like, give him something to do, you know? Give him some crap to do, man. Oh, man, one of the greatest lines ever. Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill. I say that all the time. No, Idris Elba makes so much sense as Blade to me. Because he's kind of a Wesley Snipes type guy. He's badass. He's cool. You know, he's a big guy. I mean, Idris Elba's not a small guy. I mean, he looks like he could kick some ass. And he can act, which Wesley Snipes also could. He has charisma. I mean, God, I'm just thinking about him wearing the sunglasses and walking around and stuff on a Netflix series. Man, Luke Cage wouldn't have shit on Blade. I can say that right now. That would be so dope. Any thoughts on Matt Reeves' remake? I already talked about Let Me In. I think it's an okay movie. It's not a bad movie. He's the Captain Fat. It's not a bad movie at all. I actually, I like Let Me In. It's just, if you like the original and the book, there's so many things. Like, the pool scene's not as good, and it's CG. And she's CG, so there's not as... But then there's this terrible CG cat scene in the original. But the acting's just as good in the cinematography, and he does this clever thing with the structure I like quite a bit. But the original is kind of a masterpiece, while Matt Reeves just made a really good movie. It's unfortunate because he did so much that the original already did, and that's what hurts it. If you've seen the original, you've seen it. It wasn't like when Gore Verbinski did The Ring, and I thought, to me, felt very different from Ringu. I thought it was a different kind of movie. But that's just me. If you don't agree with me, that's totally fine. That's okay. It's all about opinion, people. Okay, yeah, let's watch that line. That line Wesley Snipes says, man, at the end of Blade. It's so good.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
And what I love is that he kicks like a syringe into a guy and blows him up. There's no movie that's more frickin' 90s and awesome and heavy metal and Mortal Kombat than frickin' Blade. Oh, no, Blade on Netflix makes so much sense. Oh, Blade and the Punisher killing vampires? You genius. You genius. I hate you. Matt Murdock fighting with him, fighting vampires. Please. Oh, please. Instead of this crappy hand black sky crap, can we get vampires? Can we get Daredevil fighting a vampire? I would love that. Imagine they're trying to bite his neck, but he's wearing the armor. Oh. They can't bite through Luke's neck. A vampire tries to bite Luke Cage's neck and its teeth won't penetrate his skin. And he's like, yeah, that won't work on me. Let's just do this. Just make that. They fight a werewolf. I don't care. It's Monster Squad meets the Defenders. Go. Just go crazy with it. Oh, yeah. No, David S. Goyer is great at writing one-liners and structure. When he wrote that first script for Blade, it was the best script he ever wrote, because it was all of his best qualities in the director. David Fincher was attached to it at one point. But you could tell, like, what Nolan did to Batman Begins, and you could see the Goyer in Batman Begins and Dark Knight and all that. You could see that he helped with the structure of the films, and those, like, one-liners and comedy moments feel Goyer. And I think he came up with ideas, but he's very bad at, like, writing drama a lot of the time and actual character stuff, and all. That's what he's bad at. But I don't think David Goyer's a total hack like everyone. I get his purpose. He seems like a good producer and like a pitch guy to have there working with you, but I don't think he's I don't think he's a very good screenwriter, and he's a terrible director. He's a really bad director. What do you think about Harry Knowles and Harvey Weinstein? I think it's tragic and hilarious at the same time. There's something about it that's almost comedic in a cosmic way about those guys in particular. And now Tarantino coming out and saying he knew that Weinstein was doing stuff and he just kind of didn't do anything. That was very upsetting. That kind of was a gut punch. Because I've always thought of Tarantino as a guy with high moral character. He always felt like that kind of guy in interviews and what you hear about him. And just to know that he was kind of okay ignoring that Weinstein was doing stuff while he made money. Because Tarantino didn't need to work with Harvey Weinstein to have his career. I think Tarantino could have had a career at a lot of studios with a lot of producers. You know, I think he's proven that now with his success. So it's upsetting that there was that point that he was thinking, you know, I don't have another option but to be loyal to Harvey Weinstein. Like, you feel like you owe somebody something. It sucks. You It's what it is. Anyway, yeah, 3 million opening weekend, $22 million at the worldwide, so it's already made a little bit of money, but that opening weekend's horrible. They didn't get to shoot a lot of... This movie's been getting terrible reviews. Let's go check what it has on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, it's got 9%, which is worse than Geostorm. Not good. So yeah, this is from a talented director and talented crew. So you'd assume even from the worst it'd be a mediocre film, but apparently it's toneless, has no flow. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's generic. It feels like a TV movie. I don't know if having the whole script would have fixed that issue, but it probably would have been a better movie. It just sounds like it's not cohesive. But that's a bad opening weekend. It probably could have been a hit. I'm sure the reviews didn't help, but I like the marketing for this movie, but I guess it didn't work. Thrillers are really tough to sell. I don't know if that genre is as lucrative as it once was. Yeah, I think Tarantino's got that creepy thing like a lot of dudes are art guys, but he never felt like a dude that would do something crappy. I never felt like he was that kind of guy. He always seemed like a good dude to me. Talks like he's black. Oh no, he does it all. No, I love when he's on that podcast with the black dudes and he's just talking black. He's just like, oh man, yeah, I know, man. Yeah, I know what's going on. Like, that's how he's talking, because he grew up with black guys, and he's talking like it's so funny. It's freaking hilarious. I mean, it's so funny. Just thinking about it. Yeah, speaking of Roland, what happened to the Gunslinger, man? What happened to Dark Tower? I don't see it on here anymore. Let's check Dark Tower real quick before we come back and get to the big movies. Yeah, what happened with Dark Tower? 50 mil domestic, 111 million worldwide, $60 million budget. Yeah, that didn't do well. That didn't go well for Sony. Okay, let's keep moving up because, yeah, we're getting in the length now, but it always takes us a while to get through this, doesn't it? Cancer. Hey, man. Be careful with that cancer, you know. Cancer's real bad, I hear. You gotta get that chemo. You know, I like having my hair. Okay, It made $3.5 million this weekend, slowing down. Definitely not where it was a few weeks ago, just destroying the box office. But it made a lot quickly. That's important. Which means the studio made a lot of money, because they get a lot of the ticket. They get more profit early on, I think. The first few weeks, the studio gets more than the theaters, and then as it goes on, theaters get a little bit more of a cut. So the studio made a lot of money fast on this flick, which means big profits. Opening weekend's very important for that reason. They want to make as much of their money back as quickly as possible. They don't always think about the long term. They like making... Sometimes you have an Avatar or Force Awakens where it just makes so much money, it's just everybody wins. But, anyway, it's at 651 million worldwide. I don't know if it'll make it to 700 million. I don't know if it's released everywhere yet, but still, 320 mil domestic. Huge. What's there to say about this movie that's everyone said? It's one of the most successful films of the year. It's the most successful horror film of all time when not adjusted for ticket price inflation. That's still The Exorcist, but still, this is the most successful horror film of all time, basically. It's a blockbuster. It's a low-budget film. The studio was a WB. Warner Brothers released this through the New Line label. Freddy's Home. It hit the zeitgeist. It's something that became bigger than I think anyone thought it could be. Even at the highest end, I think we maybe all thought this. I would have thought 500 million. If you were to ask me where I thought the most money it could make, I would have said, if I went to the highest guess like a few months ago, I would have said, okay, 100 mil opening weekend and 500 mil world. That would have been my guess. The fact that it's done way more even than that it's over, it's just crazy. I don't think anyone could have, the studio, no one could have seen this coming. It's very much the Deadpool of its year. You know, it's that low-budget film that opened way better than anyone thought it would, and it's R-rated, and it hit a certain audience, and it got a big demographic, like how Deadpool got girls and boys, and this got... A lot of teenagers went to go see this movie. It caught on with a lot of different audiences, and females and males, and that's important. You want to check all your boxes, you know. I'm sure the profit on this is going to be well over 300 million, if not even more than that. They might make... I'm certain they're going to make 300 million off that movie, bring home. Just off final entry. And that's just from the movie. That's not counting all the other stuff. Television, DVDs, all that. Who knows how much money it's going to end up making them. I mean, this is probably end up going to be something that they make $1 billion or something off of. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. The Foreigner, Jackie Chan's second weekend, unfortunately a 58% drop, not that great. But at the worldwide box office, well, internationally, it already made $88 million. So it's at $111 million worldwide. So anything domestically is just helping. It's just putting a little bit more icing on the cake. So this will probably make a little under $30 million when it wraps up. But, it cost $35 million. They did spend money to market it and all that. It was directed by Martin Campbell, who did Casino Royale, which I think I would love if he came back to direct the next Daniel Craig movie. Because Martin Campbell, when he does like Edge of Darkness and Green Lantern and The Foreigner, they just do okay. And then he does a Zorro sequel. Man, he did GoldenEye and Casino Royale, and they're both huge hits and like very loved. So it's like he gets James Bond as a director. And, he didn't even really write those movies totally. He had good screenplays, but he's a good director when he fits James Bond. And all of his other films are him kind of trying to do takes on badass characters and all that, I think he needs to go home. I think the Broccoli family needs to bring Martin Campbell back for he directed the first Daniel Craig. One movie. I think he should direct the last one, don't you guys think? Maybe I'm crazy. They could hire a lot of directors that are good, but bring back the guy who started it off with Daniel Craig. Martin Campbell was just as important to that film being as good as it was as Daniel Craig was. He's very good at pacing the films and getting the location. And he's great at action. Underrated action director. The action in both GoldenEye and Casino Royale is terrific. What would you think of Nicholas Winding Refn doing a James Bond movie? I would love it if he would direct it and do what the producers say and not make it like a Refn movie. Where where James Bond just stares at people while synth music plays from the 80s, and it's just, although that sounds amazing to me, but yeah, if it's like Only God Forgives. But I mean, if he just the thing is, I don't want Nolan to come in until we reboot the franchise. I don't want Nolan to do a Daniel Craig one. I want Nolan to come in and do a new James Bond. See, Daniel Craig, he kind of has his own thing. If they're going to keep him, I think they should try to go back to what made Casino Royale work. I think they need to go back to, why people liked that first movie and liked him in it. And I think they need to go back to that. Going back to Fleming, that movie was loyal to Fleming. And that's what works so much about it. I think they need to go back to Fleming. Maybe do On Her Majesty's Secret Service again, and kind of a remake of that. Because he could have his wife killed after they get married. Because he could get married in this movie. And you could do... It could be, but go back to those... Man, go back to Fleming. Fleming's where it's at. In the Casino Royale, they went to Fleming. And then after that, they lost that. Do you like Lord of the Rings? See, I would rather have Dan Stevens than Henry Cavill if I was casting James Bond. I did like Henry Cavill in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but I think you could go with someone like a Dan Stevens or even that. Yeah, Casino Royale's a great movie, right? Like, that's all we want is Casino Royale again. Like, we want that. So let's go back to that. Do you like Lord of the Rings? I like Fellowship the most. When I liked them all when they first came out, but Fellowship in retrospect for me, it has the least amount of... You could tell as those films went on, Peter Jackson started adding more CG and getting bigger. Like, Return of the King is one of the biggest films, I've ever seen. I remember that movie seeing it in the theater, and it's a huge film, the scale of it. But I remember that first film, man, when I was a fan of Peter Jackson, you go back and you think of Heavenly Creatures, which is a lot of the template for what he did in Lord of the Rings with his directing. Was giving this gritty, grounded look to some fantasy and playing with it. And then you look at his horror films. And for me, I like Two Towers, and I think Return of the King is actually a great movie. It's got 5 endings and it's long, but it's a great film. There's segments of Return of the King that are just great. Very confident filmmaking. But as it got in, he became more of the Peter Jackson we know now, who made King Kong and Heavenly... The Lovely Bones and The Hobbit. A Peter Jackson I'm not as much of a fan of. I do not like King Kong 2005. I think Kong 2005 is actually really bad. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying that's a fact. I don't like it. I saw it in the theater and I didn't like it, and I've watched it 3 times, and I love The Frighteners. But that first movie, Fellowship, if you go back and watch that film, it's kind of like a horror film, man. Like when the ring wraiths are looking over the tree branch, when he's looking to look for the hobbits, the cave, the Mines of Moria, the You Shall Not Pass. I don't think Peter Jackson ever made... I think that's one of the greatest films ever, really. I love Fellowship of the Ring. I think it's an amazing movie. I think it was his work of 15, 20 years of directing that led him to that movie. And he got to make it at New Line, and he wanted to do a Nightmare on Elm Street film. And I think I think he made this amazing. I think he made this amazing film that was like great in the way Star Wars was A New Hope, where it had this journeyman type thing about it, where anything could happen, and it was just amazing, and it was spectacle, and it had new special effects you hadn't seen before, and you loved the characters. You remember Aragorn just smoking the pipe, Strider in the bar, and you see the smoke and all that. That stuff was so cool in the first movie, and then Boromir dying. It ends on a human moment. You know, it ends on that moment where he's like my king, and he's holding it and everything like that. And it's serious. It's not a big action battle with a bunch of CGI extras. It's two men together, and all of it's real. I like that about Fellowship. I think the other two don't quite have that. There's something raw about that movie, and it feels more like Peter Jackson, the auteur, the guy that I knew. Well, Two Towers of Fellowship almost blend together. Fellowship, I still feels like it's this standalone great little movie, this drama, and I really like it, and I still like it. It's still my favorite one. I think it's a great film, and I think without that movie, Lord of the Rings wouldn't have worked. I think that's what made Lord of the Rings what it was that first movie. It's what made people fall in love with it all over the world and all that stuff, because they nailed it. You know, they got it immediately. Even the opening segment, that first 10-minute montage, he already has you. It's great. You know, there's just something about that movie that always grabs me, and it's so engaging. But that's not knocking Return of the King, man. The stuff and I'm a big fan of Tolkien, you know. But even looking at even the stuff with the spider at Mordor and all that stuff with Frodo and Sam is amazing. That stuff's incredible. I mean, the scale of that, like there's stretches of that movie that's absolutely genius filmmaking, you know. Great visual storytelling and blocking. And it went back to old monster movies. Return of the King always reminds me of like a movie. It felt like a movie from the 50s or the 30s even. Like a lot of it really felt like so many different things, and it felt like he went back to older films, and it was operatic. It's a very good movie. Only the Brave. I was hoping this was going to open better. This was directed by Joseph Kosinski, who did Tron Legacy and Oblivion, two films that underperformed and got mixed reviews. Now, the thing about the guy is he's an architect, so he's great at designing the worlds of his films, and he's a great visual director. But unfortunately, he hasn't shown a lot of ability as a storyteller. And I was worried he was never going to break out of that. But this film, Only the Brave, starring Josh Brolin and Miles Teller and guys like that, it's actually getting pretty good reviews. Like, especially for him. Because all of his other films were really hyped up and disappointed. But, well, anyway, this film, it's got like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you look at the trailer, it's got his brilliant cinematography and lighting and visuals and all that stuff. And it's what I always felt Zack Snyder needed to do. Like, Zack Snyder was a guy that I really liked Dawn of the Dead. And then he made 300, and it was so successful that kind of just became the thing. And I always wish he would have went back and just made a movie. You know, and just sat down and made a drama. I would have seen Zack Snyder, you know, try it. Or make a horror film again, you know. Make something low budget and don't rely on the CG and all that. Like, rely on your camera work and your editing, which he was good at. But this film, it's got pretty good reviews. But like Deepwater Horizon, I think it was called, directed by Peter Berg, these films don't seem to be doing well. Fireman movies have always had a hard time outside of Backdraft. $38 million budget, 2 hours, 13 minutes, good reviews. I thought the marketing was good. Good cast, hell of a cast. Jeff Bridges, Jennifer Connelly. It's funny, Taylor Kitsch always shows up in movies like this, like Lone Survivor, or he plays a fight. He always shows American Assassin. He just pops up, and he's always that guy. He's like all American. He's a football player. He's a fireman. Apparently, casting directors just think of him as pure America. I'm mixed on Watchmen 2009. I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's a horrible adaptation of the book. Game of Thrones versus Lord of the Rings. For me, it's Game of Thrones. Not even close. I mean, for me. Not Game of Thrones currently. Season 6, 7, no. Seasons 1 through 3 and half of 4 and the first 3 books. Yeah, awesome. Great. Love it. Terrific. It's a deconstruction of the Tolkien stuff, so of course I much prefer it. It's closer to what I liked about Dune too. It's got the political stuff. I don't think that Martin's as appealing of a writer as Tolkien was, with his descriptions and his stuff, but I think his plot's better. I like the plot better to Game of Thrones than I do Lord of the Rings. But the actual world building and all that stuff in Lord of the Rings is terrific. Like all that stuff about what's actually going on in the background is good. But Yeah, I just prefer the world of Westeros and the characters to Westeros than the lore of Westeros. But that might just be because Lord of the Rings has been ripped off so much that I'm just kind of sick of it. If you play any RPG, you've just been playing Lord of the Rings, so that's all it really is. I think I'm just tired of Lord of the Rings. I grew up on reading The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and stuff. I mean, I have it burned into my head. And The Hobbit's still my favorite thing he ever wrote. I think The Hobbit's like one of the greatest children's books ever. I think it's up there with Oz and Alice in Wonderland. I think it's a terrific. I think The Hobbit's a wonderful little story. I love it. But 6 million opening weekend, not that good. I don't know if this film will hold or drop. But with that opening weekend, that's not impressive. Hopefully the international box office helps this one out. But, man, Jeff Bridges, Jennifer Connelly, Miles Teller, Josh Brolin. I love all of them. Great cast. Thought it would do better. I was expecting like 12, 15 million. I wasn't expecting it to open huge, but I was thinking like double this. This is a pretty bad opening weekend. And it opened at number 5, which is never a good sign. Just never. Did you like Tron Legacy? I like the first 20 minutes. When he first goes into the Tron world and he does the light cycle sequence in the disc fight, and then he meets up with his dad, and the movie, I'm not kidding, this is Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy it has a cool beginning with a horrible CGI Jeff Bridges, and a cool idea with evil Jeff Bridges being in the computer program. And then the son goes in, and the first act, you're like, oh, this is pretty cool action. Then he meets his dad and Olivia Wilde, and the next hour of the movie, if not longer, is exposition. It's just Jeff Bridges' character from the original film giving you exposition. And they do flashbacks with the character of Tron. That's just exposition. Instead of telling that story, the sequel, about this guy who wanted to create his own world and be God, and it backfired, they spend over an hour of that movie just giving you backstory exposition without the characters doing anything. The main character doesn't do anything. They sit at his dad's house for like an hour and just talk. Yeah, it became self-indulgent, and then once they get back to the action, all they've done is exposition, so you don't care about the story or the flow anymore, and then they start fighting again, and they fight people, and they fly, and they visually amazing. I would give the movie, like, if it had been a silent film, and he had just ignored all the crap about story where they tried to write a sequel to Tron and add all this new stuff. Like everyone was, because the original Tron had a pretty bad like story. I only like that movie for its visuals and the actors. The actual script of that movie is like awful. The sequel, the problem is, yeah, visually, God, gorgeous. The Daft Punk soundtrack, the music and the production design, I love. The score was amazing. I agree, great production. It was just, yeah, the actual story. The music made that movie better than what it was. If that movie didn't have that score, that movie would really suck. But the music kind of, like, it gets you pumped. But yeah, then they go to this club and it's over the top. And then the finale's just stupid. And Jeff Bridges uses some power. He uses a sonic boom power punch thing to not. He does the Jax punch from Mortal Kombat and knocks back his evil version. And they mix together, and then he brings the robot girl into the real world so he can have sex with the girl that his dad no doubt was having sex with for 20 years. I guess like father, like son. But great idea, Jeff Bridges being trapped in the computer world with an evil version of himself, and his son goes in to save him. If they had just stuck to that and made an adventure movie, but instead they made it a plot-driven movie, which, why would you do that with Tron? Ugh. What actor do I hate the most? I mean, that's a tough question. What actor do I not hate is more of a better question. I mean, honestly, right now, I don't know. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is definitely fighting for the top spot. Like, she's like Taylor Swift, where they're both just such bad people. They're challenging me to hate them. So I'm not sure. I don't know what to tell you. Why isn't there a cool Tron ride at Disney World? Like where you do the light cycles. Why is that not a ride at Disney World? Like, I want to go do the light cycle 3D VDR crap. Like, I want to do that. Kingdom Hearts games. Amazing gameplay, but terrible writing. Oh, Kingdom Hearts' writing is so cheese. Oh, it's bad. I love the world building, though. I think Kingdom Hearts is great. Man, when they did that back in the day to have multiple worlds you could go on, and they were all their own little world, that was cool, man. I still think that's cool. If they expanded that even more. I love the idea of going to those different worlds, and they're all Disney movies, and they're different environments, and that's a great idea. And the gameplay was fun. I definitely like the premise of Kingdom Hearts a lot, but yeah, the story's so cheese. Play Al Pacino's new trailer, Hangman, and laugh. Oh, Jesus. I'm done with Pacino. Maybe my favorite actor of all time, him or Jimmy Stewart. But yeah, ever since Insomnia. All right, Blade Runner 2049. Another steep drop, 53%. I think we can say safely this isn't going to make $100 million. It maybe could, but I don't see it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. This whole film, man, 194 million worldwide. It was funny. I got in an argument with a guy on my Blade Runner review about a couple aspects, about either the replicants being robots, which he says a term you can't use, even though the opening title says robots. But that's beyond that. But the argument was, he said that the film had made its money back was one thing, and his thought was, and this is what a lot of people do. I'm not trying to crap on this guy. It's what people do, and they think because it made 194 million, it cost 150, it made its money back. They think that's how it works. It's like that's not how it works. They don't just have the budget and then, we passed it, we made profit. You see articles on like Facebook, or normies post them on Twitter where they'll put up stuff like that. Like, film's a hit, past its budget. Like they did that with Ghostbusters, and they didn't see how it lost money. Here's the thing. They're not getting a lot of money from the domestic box office, okay? They're not getting like that 74 million, 100% of that money's not going to them. The 120 million, 100% of that's not going to them. All right? And the piece they're getting from that does not cover this budget of 150 million or the marketing costs and the production, all that, which, I mean, they have over $200 million in this movie. They're not going to break even on this. They can't. This film would have to have made 350, 400 million worldwide, if not more, to break even. It's not going to do. This is an expensive movie. So people always see like, it passed its budget worldwide. No, I used to think that too. Like years ago, I tell people, no, that movie did well. It made its money back. It didn't make its money back. They haven't made their money back. If they're saying they did, they're lying. It's a flop. I mean, you just have to be the other way. It's a flop. It's on Drudge that Blade Runner is going to be pulled early, cutting their loss. Well, not just that. They had this split up. They had the cost split up. Like, Sony put 90 million up. Like, this money wasn't all shared. So what the guy might have meant is that, like, nobody really lost money, and that's true. Like, for sure, all of this, they didn't, like, nobody lost a bunch of money because this wasn't all one person. Like, one studio didn't put all the money. Warner Brothers didn't put all the money up. So this shared between a lot of people in the distribution and all that. So I don't think one studio is going to take a hit on this. I don't think one person's going to... it's like when Valerian, that Luc Besson did. He kind of made that to where that movie didn't lose money. So I don't think they're going to lose money on this, but they're not making any profit. I mean, this is a write-off. They're going to write this off. There's no break-even profit. This isn't they made their money back. They didn't make their money back. I mean, this is performing terribly. I mean, the opening weekend was bad. The word of mouth's bad. It's dropping every weekend. It's not being loved by people except for critics and some film buffs. But even not everyone in that group likes it. And the international box office, I don't think it's bad. I don't think 120 million is bad, honestly. It's just because the movie's so expensive. I think for how niche of a thing Blade Runner is and these stars, I don't think that's bad. It's just, contextually with the budget, that's just really bad box office. Really, really bad. Yeah, it's crazy they're going to pull it early. That doesn't surprise me, though. I wouldn't hang on to this. You're just spending money keeping it out there, and you're not making any. I mean, they have it in 3,200 theaters, and it's doing $7 million. It's just not good. Happy Death Day. Steep second week drop, 64%. 40 million domestic. Got that low budget, though. 4.8 million. 53 million worldwide. Had a great opening weekend of 26 million. They probably already made some money on this. Not too much, because they did spend money on marketing. I know that. They spent a little bit. But who directed this? Christopher B. Landon. And he did Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse and Paranormal Activity, the Marked Ones, which was one of the least successful ones, but it still made money. So many of these mediocre guys get to direct horror films. This actually didn't get bad reviews. I thought this was going to hold better. I actually thought this film would do better than this because it got okay reviews, but that's a pretty bad drop. Especially compared to other horror films, like It had better holds, Annabelle Creation. Annabelle Creation ended up making 100 million, But a great year for horror. But this is going to be on the lower end when it comes to that. But luckily they didn't spend a lot of money on that. And, it'll make over 50 million. That's not bad. The Mafia lost money, yeah. Geostorm opening weekend, shockingly a $13 million opening weekend, but I saw that budget and went, whoa, that's how much that movie cost? When I saw the trailers for this movie and I saw that CGI and the cast in it, I would have put money down that this film cost like $50 million or 60. I had no idea they spent $120 million. What the hell were they thinking? Oh my god. Dean Devlin? Didn't they have a hard time shooting this? I can't remember. Didn't something happen? Oh my god. Have you seen the ninth configuration? No, I have not. But man, $13 million opening weekend for, like, I thought this film cost like $60 million and was going to open mediocre and maybe make money worldwide, but holy crap. Like this movie, Everest. And Everest actually got pretty good reviews, even though the biggest complaint was they wasted the cast. Is this the one? Yeah, this film, it cost $55 million, but it ended up making $200 million worldwide, so it wasn't a bomb. It didn't perform great domestically, but this had Josh Brolin, Elizabeth Banks, John Hawkes, Jake Gyllenhaal, Keira Knightley, Robert Wright Penn, Emily Watt. I mean, that was a huge cast. But I thought this was going to be like that, where the budget was like 55 to 60 million. I had no idea they spent 120 million. What the hell? Why would you spend 120 million on this? They got Jerry Bruckheimer in to do they shouldn't have done that. They should have just taken the loss and bit the bullet. You know it's going to be a crappy film that gets bad reviews, and you're not going to be able to fix it with the special effects. You're just trying to get the international box office. Your best bet is to play it cheap, bite the bullet, release the movie, let it bomb, and then hope it does well on home video. Because instead, now they have so much money in this. Oh my god! Unless the international box office ends up being huge and this somehow makes like 300 million worldwide, this is a disaster. A disaster movie and a disaster at the box office. I need a little drum guy. Oh man, Roland Emmerich, that whole genre's dead. Like 2012, that kind of movie would be a bomb today. That was only that genre is dead as far as I'm concerned. I think disaster movies in general are kind of dying. And I think the proofs in pretty much all that come out don't do well at the box office anymore. All right, here we are at number 1. Tyler Perry's Boo 2, A Madea Halloween. A sequel to the great classic, the first film, Boo Madea. You know, I'm going to start a series soon. I'm thinking about where, before Halloween comes up, where I'm going to get on camera. They're going to be a little vlogish. I might actually be on camera in these. I'm thinking about being on camera more lately. Give people more of that. I think YouTube channels probably grow better if people get that. I don't know why, because all the big channels always, except for like I Hate Everything's, you know, or Bearing, but it does seem like a lot of people who get big, you know. So I'm going to try to do this Halloween thing in front of a green screen possibly, where I talk about like 20 Halloween films you guys should watch in different genres. The kid stuff, the werewolf films, the vampire films, the ghost movies. And I'm going to pull them all from my own collection. And I was thinking about talking about them a little bit and filming little Halloween things like that and sketches. So I might do that, but if I do it, it'll be very soon because Halloween's coming up. Like, I might upload it the day right before Halloween if I make it. If I don't make it, then I'm not going to upload it because I'm not going to upload it after Halloween. So I'm going to try and do that. I'm thinking about doing, like, more reviews on camera and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm figuring out the channel. You know, I want to do the artwork thing. You never know. Patrice O'Neill would call it Earth Blast. That's amazing. Anyway, the last Madea movie... that was Boo! Madea Halloween. Ended up being a big hit because I thought it was a great premise for the Madea franchise. Let's put Madea in Halloween, all these pranksters and stuff. They released it in October. Genius. Counter-programming, comedy. That film cost $20 million and made $74 million worldwide because Tyler Perry has no international pull. But $28 million opening weekend and $73 million domestic. That was a good total. Now let's see what the biggest Tyler Perry film was. The biggest Tyler Perry film was Madea Goes to Jail. That film made $90 million and had a $41 million. And I think that, once again, the premise. Tyler Perry's Madea is basically Ernest, the Ernest character, if it was a black woman, and it was more popular than Ernest was. But same kind of thing. It's like Ernest goes to jail. Ernest saves Christmas. Ernest scared stupid. What's Ernest going to do now? That's what it reminds me of. It's black female Ernest. Are you excited for Thor 3? Yes, of course. Looks very good. But anyway, yeah, all of his films, you know, they pretty much tap out. You know, he was bigger at one point, Family Reunion, you know. I mean, God, even Madea Goes to Jail, that was '09. So, but the thing is, Boo and Madea Halloween ended up being one of his most successful ones. It actually did better than a lot of the, like, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, which was a big hit. The first one he made, where was, come on, yeah, Tyler Perry's Medea's Family Reunion. That was the first one, and that cost $6 million. Which, God, that movie looked like it cost $100 grand, but that movie making $30 million opening weekend, that was a big deal when that came out. That was like, whoa, like wow, that's a huge hit. The Daddy's Little Girls didn't do that well, but then Why Did I Get Married was a big hit. 55 mil domestic. He just hit that black audience that nobody was targeting movies for, like a certain demographic too, what people wanted to see. He tapped into that culture. I think a lot of people didn't want to do it because they thought it'd be offensive. And Tyler Perry doesn't care. He just wants to make the money. So he did what, he made that. It's the equivalent of the Blue Collar Comedy Tour. The Larry the Cable Guy, that's kind of what he does. But there's an audience for that. The Family That Prays didn't do that great. Like, not all of his films were huge hits. They just didn't cost anything. But then, like, Why Did I Get Married Too? Did better than the first one. Cost 20 mil, made 60 mil. I'm sure they made profit on that. Four Colored Girls didn't do as well. Yeah, I feel like the first Madea film, it wasn't called Family Reunion, was it? Yeah, it was Diary of a Mad Black Woman. There we go. That's the first one. Yeah, he didn't direct that one. Yeah, the first film cost $5.5 million, and that opening week at $21 million. Yeah, I remember when this film came out. I lived in Texas, and every black kid I knew, I mean, it was legit like Token on South Park. I lived in East Texas, and every black kid I knew and every black person I knew went and saw this movie, and they quoted it all the time, and they talked about it, and I had no idea what the heck it was, and it made $50 million, and I mean, I swear, like, that was all black. I'm not saying white people didn't go see the movie, obviously, but, like, man, I remember it was crazy like that. And then Madea got really popular. Madea really caught up. Man, this was only in 1,700 theaters. That's impressive. But then Madea got really big. And it just felt like overnight because he got this push from Oprah. And then it was like overnight Madea was an icon. So I guess whenever he does other stuff that isn't Madea, it doesn't do its best. But, this Why Did I Get Married series. And then he was absolutely terrific, shockingly, not in the Alex Cross film, but as Tanner Bolt in Gone Girl. And Tyler Perry gives this almost Will Smith-esque performance of charm. I mean, it was great. I thought he stole that movie when he came in. He started stealing it. So it doesn't mean Tyler Perry can't not act if he has the right director that can tap into the charisma of him. I didn't even think he was that bad in Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams film. But yeah, once again, he proves that this premise works. I've heard this movie's basically just a remake of the first one. I hear it's just the same movie again, same premise and everything. Oh man, I hate Happy Feet. I agree. Happy Feet's awful. I'm about to watch Riverdale. I just haven't had time to watch it. But I do plan on watching it. Tyler Perry, didn't he take... Yeah, Alex Cross. Yeah, once again, Idris Elba. Come on, man. Come on. They never cast Idris Elba in the right roles. Whoever his agent is sucks. His agent gets him such bad parts. He gets a small supporting role in Thor. He always gets these, like, God, getting Roland in that Dark Tower. Like, there's so many better movies that, like, if his agent knew, like, I'm not saying he didn't try for those roles, but, like, man, I think Idris Elba, he needs a new agent because his career, it's not working out in movies. Beast of No Nation, yes, make that, put that on Netflix, get some awards attention. Don't do these generic films that are coming out that aren't doing that well. It's not leaving an impact. Like, because I really like Idris Elba. I really do. I just think he needs to be in better movies that are worthy of him as an actor. But this is basically a remake of the first film. It cost $25 million. And I hear the majority of this film, a lot of it's just interiors. Like they're just setting in a living room. So apparently Tyler Perry, instead of putting the money into his films, which is what he should do, is make the production value better with each film. He should put $20 million in his film, make it look like a good $20 million. Because that's really a decent budget. That's a pretty modest budget for a comedy. So he could go and make that instead... Well, it's not modest. It's a good budget. But instead, he probably pocketed $24 million and spent $1 million making the movie. Like, instead of getting better cameras, a better cinematographer. And I never get why Tyler Perry doesn't let someone else direct the movies. He must be such a narcissist. Like, why doesn't he hire another guy to make the movie, like direct it? He can write it and act in it, and then he doesn't have to do the acting and directing, and maybe the movies would end up being okay. But unfortunately, he's such a bad director, his movies will never rise above the crap that they are. Even Four Colored Girls, which is one of his better movies, is still, like, would be better if, like, Spike Lee had directed it, Why are people upset that Thor 3 is getting rave reviews? Doesn't every Marvel film get rave? I mean, it's kind of a cliche at this point. Even if it's not good, Marvel films just get good reviews. Like, a Marvel film just can't get bad reviews no matter what. Like, Thor 2 didn't get... It got okay reviews, but that's like the worst reviewed one. That and Hulk. How much do you hate Watch Mojo? It's pretty much as I hate anything on YouTube that's like that. It's the channels. It's just Normieville. Here's a bunch of generic things that you can find on the internet that have been common knowledge for 20 years. And we're going to frame them in this list because you just need something to put on as background noise. Because you don't have actually anything to think about. You don't want to read a book about this movie. Let me give you 10 little facts about the movie. Look at this. Did you know Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was about homosexuality? We call that subtext. That's a trick that writers use to give films deeper meaning. Freddy Krueger was played by Robert Englund. That's a fact. There you go. The franchise was started by Wes Craven. Did they just do a 10 list of that in 5 minutes? If you want more facts on Nightmare on Elm Street, Lord of the Rings was directed by Peter Jackson. He made horror films before this came out. Oh, wow. Wow, great information. I didn't know that. Wow, he made horror films before he made Lord of the Rings. Amazing. So insightful. Viggo Mortensen, let's just go down the list. Elijah Wood was a child star before he got the job. Really? He was a child? I did not know that. I didn't grow up seeing Elijah Wood in movies all the time. Oh, wait, I did. Because he was a famous child star. Thank you for informing me of that. Let me tell you a piece of trivia that's on all the DVD commentaries. But, man, Tyler Perry, man, he's got it. Now, to say, this doesn't quite touch the $28 million that the last film did, and I don't think it's going to reach the $73 million that the last film did either. I don't think this is going to be as successful as the first film. That doesn't mean it's unsuccessful, but it's got a slightly higher budget, and it opened $7 million less actually, which is pretty little bit of a dip. But yeah, is he going to make Boo 3? It's ridiculous. So he remade the same movie and he spent more and got more money. God, this guy's a genius. Look at this genius. Oh, I see how it is. I see how it is, Box Office Mojo, but look upon him. Look upon him. For this man is a prophet. Got an hour and 41 minutes. Jesus. Oh my God. I should go watch this movie and review it. It sounds so good. Fortunately, I live out in Whitesville, so I wouldn't get the full experience of what it's like to go see that movie. It's like going to a black church. It's terrific. So much energy. So much energy to feed off of. Legit, it's one of the most exciting things to go see like a Tyler Perry movie with a packed audience. Man, people are like, it's like Rocky Horror Picture Show every time. There's so much interaction. It's amazing. I think that's why people go see Tyler Perry. It's almost like a social experience. Like when you go to screenings of his movies, it's a different energy, you know? It's like when people go see Star Wars and the people dress in costumes and all that. Like, there's just certain movies that have that. And I think the Madea franchise, there is like this just such a huge cult following that's existed now for over a decade. I'll get into Watchmen some other time. I have too much to say about Watchmen. Which is your least favorite horror series? Friday the 13th, Scream, and Halloween. That's easy. Friday the 13th because it sucks. Friday the 13th has 3 decent movies. Not even 3, 2, 4 and 6. No, 4, 6, and 7. The Sidekick Girl one's good. But the first Friday the 13th sucks, except for the final 15 minutes with Pamela Voorhees. She should have been a character throughout the whole film, so the plot twist has more impact. The last 15 minutes and the jump scare is great. The second one's just a generic slasher. The third one's a generic slasher, except for the hockey mask. The fourth one has Crispin Glover in it and Corey Feldman. Scream 1's a classic in my opinion. Scream 2's a classic in my opinion. Scream 3's okay, and Scream 4 was okay. And the Halloween franchise, I think the first one's the best film out of any of these movies we're talking about. Halloween 2's okay. It's not great. Halloween 3's amazing. I actually really like Halloween 4. That's one of my favorite slasher flicks, and I think it's better than any of the Friday the 13th flicks except maybe 4. And 5 I think's underrated. 6 is terrible in all the sequels, but... and also, I'd say that Friday the 13th was just a ripoff of Halloween. Jason is just Michael Myers. It's the same thing. He wears a white mask, and he's spooky, and he's like a boogeyman. So I prefer the originality of Halloween. And I just prefer the suburban neighborhoods and all that to Camp Crystal. Don't get me wrong, I love watching Friday the 13th. I love watching them. They're great to watch. But because the MPAA cut all the gory stuff out and all the kills, whenever you watch those movies, they're really tame. because they don't have great atmosphere. You watch them and you want to see Jason kill these kids, and they cut it down like the sleeping bag kill. They only have him hit it once, and he originally hit it like several times. They cut all the gore out, all the effects Tom Savini did on those movies and stuff. So like, it's so tame, it just feels lame. I can watch a Frank Henenlotter film if I want better, gore and stuff, and or a lot of films actually. And then if I want the entertainment that you get from Jason killing them, which is great, I like Mike Myers creeps me out more, and I like Dr. Loomis. There's no Dr. Loomis character in Friday the 13th. Like Tommy Jarvis could be, but they don't do anything with Tommy Jarvis. And it sucks because I think Tommy Jarvis could have been such a good character. But they could have, if they would have kept the idea of the multiple Jasons, like a different person wears the Jason mask every movie. I wish they would have kept that idea, and it became this like copycat effect. But they never stuck with one premise of the Friday the 13th franchise. Where Halloween, there's actually a continuity for a while, and the original script for the sixth film I actually really like quite a bit. So I don't know. I think those franchise. I don't think Friday the 13th was ever that interesting. I think it was just being at the camp and the music and all that. But I do love them. I love watching them. But Scream to me is Wes Craven outside of Nightmare. I love Scream 1 and 2. Kevin Williamson's screenplay, man. Nightmare is my favorite out of that by far. Not even close. Although Child's Play 2 is one of the most underrated slasher sequels ever. The part in the Toy Factory when Chucky pops out is awesome. Great sequel. They up the stakes. The third one's a little... Honestly, it's weird too. The third one was directed by Jack Bender, who directed Lost. And Nightmare on Elm Street, though, man. The first one... I actually like the second one quite a bit. Dream Warriors is awesome. Frank Darabont worked on that script. Amazing movie. One of the best sequels. It plays more like a fantasy film than it does a horror film at points. Although the ending has no payoff. Freddy just kills the damn Dream Warriors. It's always upsetting. These kids get these superpowers and then they don't do anything with it. But man, awesome movie. The fourth one's really fun. Rennie Harlan. He saw Freddy as a superhero. I don't like The Dream Child. That movie's just gross. And I don't like the sixth one. Wes Craven's New Nightmare, terrific film. Terrific postmodern meta slasher flick. Feels like a precursor to Scream. And Freddy vs. Jason, I'm a big fan of. It's a big budget B movie. It feels like the old Frankenstein versus the Wolfman. I saw it in the theater. It's a very cliche slasher flick. And the kids definitely suck for a lot of it, and they don't keep the most interesting actors. They kill the most interesting character in the movie, the guy whose like brother died. They kill him in the bat. It's like, why'd you kill the most interesting character? Don't do that. And the cop guy. But when Freddy and Jason actually fight, it's awesome. And Freddy's hilarious in that movie. What I love about that movie, it's such a funny premise to me what Ronnie Yu did with Freddy vs. Jason, is that Freddy basically has Frankenstein's monster, and then he screws up by getting this guy. Jason screws up all of Freddy's plans. So it's Freddy making a mistake, and he's pissed off about it. So the whole movie, you're kind of rooting for Freddy to fix this mistake. Like, you don't give a crap about what's going on in the actual story. You like, it's Robert Englund getting to play that part in a really funny way. And just him being like, damn you, Jason! Quit fucking things up! It's so funny to me. Like, it's why I loved Ronnie Yu. I love Bride of Chucky. Bride of Chucky's my favorite Chucky movie. And everyone's like, what about the first Child's Play? The first Child's Play has such a major narrative mistake it hurts that film. The fact that they reveal in the opening that he puts his body into the Chucky. Had they not done that, and you thought Andy was the killer, which was the original idea, and then that moment where she looks and the batteries aren't in there and you find out Chucky's real... And he's like, you bitch, you fucking whore, I'll get you. That scene that's amazing. If that had been the reveal, the plot twist that Chucky actually was real, if they had convinced you that Chucky wasn't real and done that, that'd be one of the greatest horror films of all time for that plot twist. But unfortunately, that plot twist is completely hollow with the batteries because you know that Chucky's in there. You know that Chuck put his body in there. And then you could have done it as a flashback with the cop remembering and telling the story about the doll. Then you get the information. Unfortunately, though, they make a terrible choice with that. So it makes the first hour of, to me, Child's Play boring. That first half, I think, is terrible. I don't think that movie gets good until Chucky reveals he's Chucky. Then it gets great. I love the third act. The first half, though, you're just waiting for Chucky to reveal he's Chucky, and you know he is. Because the director didn't think about that. He didn't know how to do a mystery. And it kills the whole movie. There's a great movie there. Where Bride of Chucky, Jennifer Tilly and Brad Dourif, man, the line delivery, the comedy, the tone... just even the ending of that movie. That movie is so funny and campy, and oh, it's so good. I love it. I love Ronnie Yu's. Like, a lot of fans hate Freddy vs. Jason and hate Bride of Chucky. They think it ruined it and made it too comedic and campy. But I'm like, they already became parodies by this point. What made him great was he embraced that aspect. Like when Leprechaun in the Hood embraced the funny aspects of the Leprechaun. That there's actually a really funny character here. I mean, it's even like Jason. I think if you were to make a Friday the 13th movie now, what they always screw up with Jason, there's those parts in Jason Takes Manhattan where he's like, he just knocks people out of the way, he pushes their face, or that escalator scene that got cut, or when he kicks the stereo. That's how you should do a movie. You should do some physical comedy with Jason and not slapstick, like where he's getting tossed around like in the old movies. I mean, like, really make him a monster that's super strong and have fun with it. Like no director wants to sit there and have fun with Jason and how we could just, punch a guy's head off instead of that 2 minutes where the guy goes on. But, like, keep that stuff, him kicking the stereo. Do kind of what they did with Star Trek, The Voyage Home, where they put the Star Trek cast in the 80s and they had the Max Star. Put Jason somewhere and then have it. Really, I think Jason Takes Manhattan had the right idea. That could have been a great movie had they been able to actually film in New York more and made it that movie. There's a great idea there. But that's what it is. But anyway, Boo 2, Medea's Halloween. God, what a lazy title even. It's just the same title. Good opening weekend. I don't think it's going to hold very well. But I could be wrong about that. Weird weekend, man. Tyler Perry, Geostorm, Happy Death Day, Blade Runner, a fireman movie, Jackie Chan, Pennywise. I mean, what the hell is going on right now? The Snowman. Let's scroll down and see if I missed anything. Let's see where Cars 3 is at, if that's made any more. $378 million worldwide on a $175 million budget. Domestic total disappointing, but I'm sure they did okay. And that movie's all about the merchandise. The movie I was rooting for, Stronger, didn't perform that well. $4 million. Disappointing. I was hoping that would be one of Jake Gyllenhaal's big breakout, but he doesn't seem to be able to break out. He's so good in so many good movies, like Nightcrawler and Nocturnal Animals, and they never break out. They never become that big hit, Even Prisoners wasn't a big hit, and I just feel like Jake is so good. Goodbye, Christopher Robin. 153,000 in 61 theaters. That's not great. It's actually not that good at all. That movie's getting okay reviews. I do like Domino Gleeson, though. I think that's good casting. The Killing of the Sacred Deer. 114,000 in 4 theaters. That's really not bad. All things contextually for what that is and everything. Wonderstruck. 68,000 at 4 theaters. That's pretty bad. Mother's still out. Mother's at $42 million, $30 million budget, not counting marketing and all that. 17 mil domestics, abysmal. Did perform very close to Detroit, Catherine Bigelow's film, but seems to be making more. I doubt they're going to make any profit off that, though. It seems like it's pretty much done. I'm not sure if it'll reach 50 million. So it's Aronofsky's. It's going back to old Aronofsky, because before The Wrestler was a big indie hit, and then Black Swan was a blockbuster hit, and then Noah did pretty well. Before that, his films didn't do... Like, Requiem for a Dream wasn't a hit, neither was Pi, or The Fountain. Actually, The Fountain was a bomb. So he really didn't become successful until The Wrestler, and that was kind of a comeback for his career. So this goes back to how it used to... Aronofsky was never mainstream. It's like Paul Thomas Anderson. He doesn't really have a hit movie. His most successful film is There Will Be Blood, and it made like 75 million worldwide or something, There's just some, like, it's crazy to me Boogie Nights. I mean, Boogie Nights made money, but it's crazy to me Boogie Nights didn't make like 100 million. It just blows my mind that wasn't a huge... This movie's so good. Like, Pulp Fiction was a huge hit and Boogie Nights wasn't. I don't quite get it. I love Boogie Nights. I just figured... I mean, now it seems like everyone's seen that movie, but at the time it just did okay. It was very acclaimed. It was one of the best reviewed films that year, but... Jane, 55,000. Widest release, 3 theaters. 90-minute movie. Let's see if I miss anything here. I don't even know what these movies are. What the hell is... 2 hours and 20 minutes? Jesus Christ. Like, I haven't heard of any of these freaking things. So weird. It's weird how that happens. Gotta say. Oh, Leap. There's that, like, German animated film. 105 million worldwide. Sorry about the cough. Wind River. 33 million on I thought maybe it made some... I guess it hasn't opened anywhere internationally yet. That's why I'm checking to see if any of the international numbers have changed. Let's go to last weekend, and maybe we'll see some movies that haven't been updated yet because the actuals aren't in. Oh, yeah, there you go. Emoji Movie. Let's see where that's at. Oh, Emoji Movie did it. 207 million worldwide. All right, well, that movie probably made some money now. That domestic total of 85 million, I don't think is that good. They're probably expecting it to make 100 million, but still, it's not a bomb. Although, who knows how much they spent on marketing, actually. This movie might have cost more. Okay, yeah, Dunkirk. Let's see where that's at. 523 million, so it's pretty much where it was at 522. I guess I don't see it making much more than that 187. It might reach 188, which would prove me wrong. I said it wasn't going to reach that Interstellar 188, but it actually did. Even though, ticket price, but that doesn't... Dunkirk's cheaper, so it seems like Nolan, pretty much whatever he does now, he can reach that right under 200 million total, which is very impressive. The only other director I think who has that is like kind of a Tarantino, who was doing that with Django and Inglourious Bastard. Very impressive from Nolan. Annabelle Creation, 101 million domestic. Worldwide, 303 million. Huge, $15 million budget. Easily one of the most successful films. Let's see how War's doing. Did War reach 500? 490, still not there yet, even with the China release and all that. I think it came out in Japan too. Definitely the most disappointing domestic performance, I'd say, for a film that got great reviews and had this... Like this film had everything going for it to be a hit. And it's just a little bit above the first film when you don't include ticket inflation. So unfortunately, but still, I thought it would be at 500 million. I don't know if it'll make it. Wonder Woman, 821 million. I guess that's the final total for that. But 412 mil domestic is beast mode. Big Sick, did that ever do better? No. Once again, Big Sick's a movie. You're gonna go, oh, but it cost 8 million. It's like, yes, and they spent 20 million buying it, and then they spent another like 20 million advertising it. So they spent a lot of money on it. They were expecting that to be a $100 million movie, I guarantee you. Even just worldwide, I think they were expecting that. I think, and I don't blame them. I would have thought Big Sick was going to be a hit too. It was getting great reviews. They said it was a crowd pleaser. I would have put my money on it too. But it was a packed summer, so it was a bad move that they didn't realize, I think, in the moment. Oh, Night of the Living Dead's released right now in 2017 4K resolution. Yeah, that public domain film that has like 100 DVD releases. It's like Evil Dead and Night of the Living Dead. I own like 8 different DVD versions of those damn movies. Oh, 6. You kidding? 6 is way better than Final Fantasy 7. Final Fantasy 6 and Chrono Trigger are the 2 best JRPGs of all time. Yeah, not even close. Final Fantasy 6 is a far superior game to Final Fantasy 7. Really, in every way. The story's better. The graphics maybe aren't as impressive as they were, but Final Fantasy VII's graphics have dated horribly, while 6's graphics still look terrific. That's the thing about the 16-bit era. There's never been a better story pacing game. I mean, yeah, 6, easily. To me, 6 and Chrono Trigger are the 2 best JRPGs ever. Maybe the 2 best RPG. I mean, I'm not going to say best, because, Daggerfall, or stuff like that that's pretty good. They're pretty great, but, yeah, 6. I would have said 7 at the time when it came out, and I loved it like everyone else, but I don't think 7's actually been aging well the last few years, while 6, I think, plays just as well now, if not better than when it came out. I think 6 is one of the... It's one of the most timeless games I've ever played. Same thing with Chrono Trigger. There's a timeless quality about those games that I really like. As for the Saw franchise, I kind of like the first... I like the first film, and I like the third film, and that's pretty much it. Oh, Final Fantasy VI is an amazing game. It's a masterpiece. My favorites in the series are, 6, 9, 5, 10, and 7 would probably be my list. I think that'd be my... 7 wouldn't be, like, in my top 3. It would be 6, 9, 5, probably. Then 10, and then, I find Final Fantasy VI except for because of how it manages to balance such a large cast of characters. Exactly, dude. It's so good. It's so epic. It's a beautiful game. It's really a little masterpiece of not just storytelling but world building, and it set the template so well for the future Final Fantasy games and RPGs in general. I mean, it really was an astonishing. It took everything that was groundbreaking about Final Fantasy V and perfected it, and made something that I don't think. I mean, it might be Square's greatest work in a lot of ways. It's right there. I mean, it's a terrific. It's amazing game. One of the best video games ever made. I mean, my favorite games of all time. My favorite game ever is probably Super Metroid, but there'd be no top 10, top 20 that I wouldn't include Chrono Trigger, and Final Fantasy VI would be somewhere on there, for sure. Oh, I love 9. Love 9. 9, it's so classic. It's like a Miyazaki film. It's so good. It's so simple. They just went back to basics, and they don't overdo anything. I love that about 9. It's such a good freaking game. It's generally one of my favorite games ever made for the PS1 is Final Fantasy IX, and I think it's aged well. The graphics on that game, I think, look really good. After all this time, too. It's very impressive. Sorry, I got a comment. I just wanted to check it. Oh, it's an update on something. My bad. Okay, did I miss anything here? Nope. Human Flow, Breathe, Wasted. Don't care, don't care. Definitely don't care. Dunkirk, Home Again, Emoji Movie. Spider-Man. There we go. Spider-Man Homecoming. That make any more money? Nope, still at $8.79. Great box office, though. That ended up being a big, big hit. Fourth highest grossing film of the year. It'll be knocked down by Star Wars. Although the projections for Star Wars from everyone right now is lower than Force Awakens, but we all knew that. That doesn't mean it won't open at $200 million. You know, Force Awakens had a $250 million opening weekend. That doesn't mean that Last Jedi won't open to $220 million. It's still going to be huge. It's like Age of Ultron. That opened to $190 million. Sure, it wasn't the Avengers, but it wasn't some crappy opening weekend. It's still huge. Wow, man, look at all these superhero films, and at least Disney doesn't have the top 5 this year. Last year, Disney had like the top 5 biggest films. This year, it's Disney, then it's Universal, who competes, then Sony, which is crazy. Wolf Warrior 2, which is just a Chinese release. Then you have Guardians, Disney, and then you have Wonder Woman, that's WB. So at least there's more variety. Last year, it was legit like... It was like The Jungle Book, Finding Dory, Zootopia, Civil War were the biggest movies of the year, and they were all Disney films. Disney dominated. This year, there's at least the top 4 films aren't all actually, Spider-Man Homecoming isn't even Disney. They make money off the merchandising, but yeah, that's not even them. So that's a little different too. But they still have Beauty and the Beast, Guardians, Pirates. But it's nice to see variety. I like that, like Warner Brothers being in here with It in the top 10. That's so nice to see. Fox being in here with Logan. That's great. Seeing Kong and Dunkirk do well in WB. That's the stuff you want to see. I want all the studios to do well so they'll make different kinds of movies. I don't want it to just be Disney making their brand, you know? I want Fox to make movies. I want WB to make movies. I want Universal to make movies, you know? I don't know if I want Sony to make movies. But I think I actually find Universal and Fox to be pretty good studios for the most part. I think Fox has had problems, but, you know, they always find their way through. I give Fox credit for always finding a way through all the crap. They always find a way to survive. Well, Universal actually has very success. I mean, look, they run, you know, Illumination's a division of them, but they get some of that money, baby. They get a lot of that money. Because I can't remember how Illumination started. I think it was its own studio as like a brand, and then it got so big, it was like Pixar, and then they bought... I'm not sure. I can't remember the story behind Illumination. There's more to it. But I haven't read about it in so long, I can't just go off. Alright, well, I guess I'm going to end this episode, because I can't think of much more to do. I think we paced this one pretty well. So it's not going to be one of the longer ones that are 2.5 hours or 3 hours, but it's also not one of the shorter ones. It's 45 minutes or an hour. You know, I kind of like the hour and a half or hour. The first episode was I think the first episode of Box Office Addict, they were all over an hour, and then the one that did really well, the Dark Tower one, was an hour, but the Annabelle one, that did really well, and that was about 2 hours. And I remember the feeling of that 2 hours. But I love doing the 2-3 hour ones we did, and I hope to do more of those in the future. And they did really well, surprisingly. That was what was shocking. I kind of like the hour and 40 minute to 2 hour format, so I think I'm just going to wrap this one up here. It's 9:30 here. Some of you guys probably want to get to bed or watch something or do something. I got to film tomorrow, and I need to eat something and all that, so I can't go all night. But I'm sorry this was a late Box Office Addict. I apologize. I'll try to be earlier next Sunday so more of you can be here live. I missed some of my regulars here. I'm sorry I missed you guys. I hope I'll see you next week. I'll try to do it early. I'll try to have a better schedule. My schedule kind of sucked this weekend. The last 2 weeks in general. I've just had a terrible schedule. But I'm sorry about that. I'll try to do it earlier. I'll try to get more topics and more things, a variety of things to talk about and all that. But I hope you had an entertaining time. And I just hope that you like watching that YouTube show. That's pretty good there, you know. But if you watch the show, you're a Box Office Addict yourself, and I like being your pusher man. So Come meet me again next Sunday. Come join me again next Sunday. That's better wording. Come join me again next Sunday for another box office addict. And we'll go down this rabbit hole together. For better or worse. Let's just put it that way. But thank you, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoy your guys' questions, and I enjoy the time we spend together.